Welcome to Gene and Mike do the New York Times crossword.
Hi, I'm Jean.
And I'm Mike. And today we are doing the crossword for Thursday, August 8th, 2024. So, did you do the crossword?
You betcha.
And after you did it, did you give yourself a hand?
I could have, couldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I didn't do it till late this afternoon, so it's still fresh in my mind.
Well, that's good. And did you find it to be a handsome grid?
It was pretty handsome, yes.
Mm-hmm. And at some point, listeners are going to start wondering why I keep trying to inject the word hand into the conversation.
I think I know why.
Oh, yes?
I think it might have something to do with the theme.
Everything to do with the theme.
Yes, it was a Thursday, and that means it was a rebus.
Well, not all the time, but in this case, yes.
But chances are, if there's a rebus, it's a Thursday.
Yeah,
So,
certainly.
Anyway, the rebus this Thursday related to the word hand. And there were 4 squares where you had to put the word hand into the grid in order to solve both the across and the down clues. So the first one was 17 across, mixed drink with an alliterative name. It's not really that much of an alliterative name, but the answer was scotch and soda. And so the H of scotch and, of course, the and went together into a square to form the word hand.
Right.
21 across, preceder of the 3 kingdoms in Chinese history, and that was the Han Dynasty. So H-A-N-D went in the first square, and the rest of the word dynasty went in the other subsequent squares for the second one. And then the third one went the entire length of the puzzle. It's 36 across. It's not as simple as it sounds, and that was easier said than done. That's when I figured out the rebus. So the H of H-A-N of than and the D of done were put into one square to show hand. And then finally the last one, 50 across, ornate a lighting fixture. The answer was a chandelier. So you had the C and then H-A-N-D in the next square and a leer in the rest. So,
right.
So that was the theme and the themed clue.
And, of course, there was the revealer, 58 across.
Oh, yes, of course, 58 across. Part of a clock depicted 4 times in this puzzle, and the answer to the first part of that was minute hand. But of course, the what was depicted in the puzzle was minute hand, because you had very tiny hands in those 4 squares.
Yes.
When you have a rebus with more than 1 or 2 letters, the letters become very, very small. So, minute hand.
Now, were you minutely disappointed that those hands didn't turn into pictures of hands and they could have been waving back and forth?
Well, no, because actually none of them were the noun hand in the answer.
Well, that's
They
true.
were combinations of 2 words. I don't think there were any 3 words. The only one that, chandelier, it was just part of 1 word.
Right.
But usually they were combinations of 2 words. But none of them, the answer either way is that right? No, the answers going down were hand. Like 5 down, which was the one going down in scotch and soda, was let go, you brute, unhand me. And then 8 down, bad way to get caught, red-handed. That was the Han Dynasty one. And then 29 down, within reach, was at hand. That was the one that crossed easier said than done. And then 51 down, robber's order, and that was hands up, which crossed chandelier. So yeah, the down clues, they were actually the noun hand or
hands,
a variation of it, but the across clues were not related to hands at all.
Well, but because the down clues were hands, I still go back to my original argument.
Yes, I suppose. Yes, it would have been fun to have little hands pop up.
But then they got to draw the line somewhere, because
Well,
otherwise at the end of every crossword, people are going to expect fireworks.
That would have been kind of tricky, I would think,
To get a moving hand?
to get a hand in there. But
I suppose.
anyway, that was the theme, and it was a good one. It was a typical Thursday one, I think. It made for a unique challenge to get the puzzle done. Of course, it took me longer because it took me a while to figure out what was going on.
See, I was lucky. I figured out the theme with 8 down. I had, so again, 8 down, bad way to get caught, and I had the word red, and I thought, oh, it's red-handed. And I think I might have even, it had to be hand. And so I got that at the top of the puzzle, and that helped everywhere else. Just a little bit of luck going my way.
Well, it was funny. 4 down was like old chestnuts, and that was retold.
Yes.
Which I still don't quite understand.
Well, a chestnut is like a story, sort of.
It is? I thought it was a nut.
Well, it can be a chestnut, but it's sort of like a tale of some sort. Yeah.
Oh, well, I have never heard that definition of it. So, but anyway, I had the R and the E, and so then on 8 down, bad way to get caught, I had the R and the E, and I'm like, oh, 2 like re-words. So I was thinking of, bad way to get caught, like something, readmitted or something like that. But anyway, that was just kind of in my mind, but it turned out it was red-handed. Yes. Not something.
Let's see here. I was frantically trying to look up chestnut as slang, and all I'm finding are foods, so I'll give up on that. Speaking of foods, remember we have to come back and talk about pasta at some point.
That's right.
Let's see here. So one across, Catherine Blank, last wife of King Henry VIII. And I'm like, great. There's Anne Boleyn, there's Anne of Cleves, and that's all I can remember. And it turned out to be Catherine Parr.
Catherine Parr.
Now, you've seen 6.
I have.
So I'm assuming you got this right away.
I did, yes.
Okay.
But I can't remember all of them. I know the first one was a Catherine. Was that Catherine Howard? And then Anne Boleyn. And then I can't remember the third one. And then there was Anne of Cleves. And then there was another one, and then there was Catherine Parr. But I can't remember them all. But I do remember the last one was Catherine Parr.
Right. I can remember going to see 6. That's all I remember. I don't remember who's actually in it. That was my problem.
Yeah. I know there were like 3 Catherines, I believe. And 2 Annes, of course.
I guess it was either that was a very popular name in those ages, or
apparently, yes.
King Henry VIII just found himself drawn to them. Right beneath that, we had 14 across. Orchestra tuner was an oboe.
That is correct.
Do you know why?
Because you can hear it.
Yes.
I never played in an orchestra, but I played in the high school band, and yes, we tuned ourselves to the head clarinet until the school had enough money to buy an oboe.
Oh, okay.
And then we tuned ourselves to the oboe. Yes.
Yeah, I think we used a snare drum. we were a very unusual orchestra. 1 down, thread component was a post. That was cute and slightly unexpected. 20 across, bad weather forecast informally. So I had it ending in MS, and I decided the answer was inclems, because like inclement weather.
Inclems.
Inclems. And then I thought about that for a bit, and as I was working on the downs, realized that inclems was incorrect.
Right, yes.
I'm assuming that anytime, if Joel Fagliano was reading through this and he saw the word inclems, he'd just go rip and next.
Well, now, next time I run across a weather forecaster or weather person on the news, I'm going to say, hey, seen any inclems lately?
What can I say? It fitted.
Well, I had the T, the first letter T, so I thought, it's Twister.
Oh,
So I put
nice.
Twister in there, but that didn't last too long.
That would be a bad weather forecast.
Uh-huh. It was slang. So.
Let's see. What else do we have around there? We've got 23 across. Slightest idea. Clue.
Yes, that was clever.
Right. I guess they also could have said, this is one.
They could have.
But they didn't. Mm-hmm. I forgot about 5 across. Basic level of a popular ride-sharing app is UberX. I've used it, and I just sort of ignore the names of all the different types of vehicles and services that can show up. But
so what happens if you use UberX?
You get nothing. I mean, an Uber shows up, and they just charge you less than if the Uber Supremo or whatever the other levels are.
I think that's a pizza, Supremo.
Well,
Uber Supremo.
I mean, Uber does Uber Eats, so maybe they do Uber Eats Supremo. 7 down was Blank Morales, former president of Bolivia, Evo.
Yes, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be presumably for the people of Bolivia, Evo sounds like a perfectly fine name. But if you were an English speaker and you were running for a presidential office, you probably would not want to name yourself Evo, because that sounds way too close to evil.
Well, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah.
So, and I'd like to apologize to Evo Morales. I'm sure
and anyone else named Evo.
And anyone else named Evo. I don't know if we have too many listeners named Evo.
Well, if we do, we'll probably find out after this podcast.
That's right. 10 across, part of a routine, joke.
Yes.
Did you get that one?
Not right away, no. I put step.
I think I went for that too, yeah.
Yeah, routine.
Right.
Step by step. Oh, mm-hmm.
And then we had 10 down. First non-human species encountered in the Star Wars franchise, Jawa.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Mm-hmm. And that was
in fact, that's where I ended up. Because I had, for 19 across, fused by heat, I had meld.
Yes, I went for that.
So I had JAMA.
JAMA.
But I'm like, I don't ever remember the JAMA race in Star Wars. But eventually I figured out fused by heat is weld. And so it was the Jawa.
Well, it's interesting because the Star Wars have been coming out, they've been going to the future, they've been going to the past.
Right.
And now they've got the series, The Acolyte, that's supposedly the oldest Star Wars story yet.
You mean that's before even
it's
the one before Rey and
yeah, way before that.
Oh.
And I don't know if they had Jawas in there. So when they say that it's the first encountered in the Star Wars franchise, I guess by franchise they mean movie, not the Star Wars. Well, it depends how you want to number those movies. But anyway.
I guess the first one would have been with the little boy Anakin, right, who becomes Darth Vader.
And there were probably Jawas in there. But this is before that. I mean, chronologically.
First non-human species encountered in the Star Wars franchise. Well, the first one was with A New Hope, right, with Luke Skywalker and
right. If we're talking about when the movies were released, this is correct.
It was like out in the 1970s.
I think it depends how you define franchise. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think if you think about it as a series of commercial releases of products, then they're right. I can imagine them in the New York Times crossword editing studio having debates like this. That'd be a great job to have.
I guess.
Let's see. 24 down, I found troublesome, actual, and it was de facto.
Right.
That took me a very long time to work out. I had like a whole answer of some sort, and I had to keep backing up and like 41 across. Oh, 41 across. Yeah. A carved one hangs in the chamber of the Massachusetts House of Representatives. Cod.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Right. And that sort of messed up my de facto for one thing, but because I figured, it must be God.
No.
Well, it's sort of...
How would you portray that?
Just some smiling person. Not sure what gender, but anyways, they'd be a smiling person. It was God, but I mean, doesn't it make more sense they'd be thinking about God rather than cod?
Well, I mean, Massachusetts, Cape Cod, probably have a lot of cod fishing.
I mean, they named a whole cape after it.
Yeah, so Makes sense. You know, after I got it, I thought, oh, well, that makes sense. But I never would have thought of that. Then I thought in Wisconsin, they should have a big stein of beer, a carved stein of beer.
Wouldn't necessarily, it could be more than just carved. It could actually be functional.
Well, I would imagine the state legislators would appreciate that.
Yeah. De facto ran into 44 across. Name spelled out in the alphabet song. Stew.
Yes.
I thought that was amusing. Let's see. You know, that easier said than done? I had it as easy for you to say.
Oh.
Which fitted very nicely.
But it didn't.
But it didn't work. No, I had to pull that one out. That was sort of painful. And then I always get this one wrong. 49 down was, if I can find, I seem to have lost 49 down, terra blank, and I always go for terra firma.
Oh.
And it's always terracotta.
Terracotta, yes.
I don't understand why, but if I look at the number of times that cotta has appeared in the New York Times crossword, it has appeared 87 times.
Wow.
Whereas firma has appeared 26. I should go for cotta.
Yep. The odds are in cotta's favor.
Yes. But sometimes I just get caught up by the problema or something like that. 26 down, that was a mystery to me. Raccoon relatives, relative, singular, coati.
Yes. We've had that before.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to go for, my answer was going to be coons.
Oh, yeah.
But they never allow coons to be an answer for a raccoon.
No, probably
so.
not.
All right. Well, I think that's probably it for today then. So thanks everyone for listening. Hope you're enjoying these podcasts. And remember, you can always get a hold of us, crosswordpodcast at iCloud.com. That is it for today. We'll be back with our cutting edge analysis of Friday's crossword tomorrow.
Bye-bye.